All right, good evening, everyone. As the Chambersburg Area School District, we're going to start with the regular board meeting. We had an executive session prior to this meeting on litigation. Please rise and join me for the pledge, followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. 2.03, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay. Agenda is adopted. May I have a motion for 3.01 for approval of the minutes?
Move to approve.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any questions about the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, minutes are approved. 4.01, President's Report. I'll pass it to Mr. Norcross.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shore. As we've been doing for the past several months or so, I've been giving the community and staff and everyone an update on where we are as a board with our superintendent process. Going to do some honesty and humility here tonight in that order. Honesty is, as I've said numerous times before, the focus groups were just great. I really appreciated all the input. I believe I speak probably for darn near all the board members, but I can't speak for them. But I believe the consensus is everyone felt we got a lot of good feedback. It was good not only for this process, but for Ed Norcross personally. I thought it was good for just being a board member. I felt everyone was candid, open, and honest, which is what we were hoping for. I'm sure there was some people who had reservations, and that's probably just a natural instinct, and I can appreciate that. But I mean, that was a great process. The other part, the board they have been great. I appreciate the opportunity for being able to help facilitate this, but it's really truly been a committee of 9. That's good and bad, but you know, we have had great discussions, candid discussions. We've done it as a group of 9, not so much as a subcommittee of 3 or 4 and then come back and forth. We've kept it together as a group of 9. And the other part that also means a lot to me is the confidentiality that we have been able to maintain through the process. I know for some in the community, maybe it was a bit too strict with not giving more information, but to be totally honest with you, there were numerous candidates who requested that the information remain anonymous because they had current employment and they didn't want their names or information shared that, you know, they were maybe seeking another opportunity. And for anyone here who maybe has had a job and has searched for another job, I would think you can totally appreciate and understand that. So we went through the focus groups, gathered that information, we advertised. We had a lot of good candidates reply. Our first really good discussion amongst the board is when we narrowed it down to what we had for our first round of interviews. And when it came time for the first round of interviews, I think we really hit it out of the park because those first round interviews I think we really selected some good folks, and every one of those interviews, very strong candidates, and a lot of positives came out of that. And with anybody and all of us, I'm going to use Dr. Long's term here. We all have areas that we glow in, and we all have areas we need to grow in. And that became very obvious with this first round of interviews. This is when the problem started getting tough. And being a little bit long-winded here tonight, but I'm doing that intentionally. Now I'm going to go in the humility route. I could provide an explanation, but in one of my personal endeavors, I say no explanations, no excuses. If I tried to make an explanation here tonight, it would probably sound like an excuse, so I'm not going to try to do it. We had several of our finalists withdraw after the interview, which then created some issues. That's a fact. The part that I did not see, now we're going to humility. The part that I did not see is when it came time to make this decision. I think the whole board, everyone individually understood what was at stake here, the importance of the decision, the brevity of this decision. The part that we didn't get done was coming to a consensus. And if there's a fault with that, you put Ed Norcross's name on that fault. Because when it came time, as being a stakeholder, and this has been mentioned in the community, and it was mentioned through the process once we were 3/4 of the way through it, not having a third party to be that facilitator. Trying to have a stakeholder or stakeholders facilitate the group doesn't work. It didn't work, or at least it didn't work for this character. So what we have decided as a board is we are not going to be naming a superintendent, and we are going to look to go into the search process again and using a third party to help us through that. And again, if there is a fault with that, you all put Ed Norcross's name on it, and I'll take it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Norcross.
Can I just respond to that a little bit? I think it's important that we be transparent with the public. I appreciate you owning it. I think all of us, to some extent, have to own that as a board. But I had just written up a few thoughts I had about this that I think are important. I think we need to be transparent with the public. So I agree with Ed. I think we should have used a third party. I've been concerned with the process personally, that we've not had a consultant or an HR involved, a solicitor involved. I think it's, we've not set ourselves up well. But that's where the majority of us were, and so we didn't move forward with that. I think with a district this size, we need folks with expertise in hiring involved. I know one thing I had said is I think we should do a national search for the size that we are. But feedback, I know you're trying to hold the cards close. Feedback we heard from focus group pretty consistently was, we want somebody local. There were a lot of people that said that. And so I'm concerned about the direction that we are heading. It feels like a gamble to me. We've already done this once, and I'm not sure what our pool of applicants will be like and if it will be any better than the last time. I think if people do their homework, they will find out that we have a board that can be controlling, maybe not all the time, maybe not on every issue, that we can overstep, right? And we have a long history of making budgetary cuts, that money drives a lot of what we do, right? And I think that creates a context where it will limit our pool of candidates, right? So I'm concerned. I'm concerned about stability for our students and staff. I'm concerned about morale. I'm concerned about how this could hurt our community and organizational culture, and that we could lose some of our best if we prolong this anymore. So I'm just sharing, you know, we are not unified about this as a board. And that's been apparent, right? That's no surprise to anyone, any of my colleagues on the board. But I want to share where I'm at with this. I'm opposed to us reopening this. I'd ask the board to reconsider. I personally, I felt the last candidate we had was a strong candidate, and that we could have moved forward with that person. I've asked a lot of people in the district where they serve, and I've not heard a single legitimate concern from employees, from parents, from students in that district. And I've heard a lot of positive feedback about this candidate, a lot of appreciation for the approach that they bring, for the organizational culture that they're trying to create in the district where they serve currently. And so that's where I am. I thought we had a strong candidate with a strong skill set. They have proven themselves to be invested in the district and the community where they serve. And I think we ought to invest in them. So there are people it's a person that has vision, humility, a willingness to learn. And I personally am just confused about why we're not moving forward with them. I've asked the board for legitimate concerns that they have about this candidate. And to be honest, I've been underwhelmed with the response that I've got. Many of the concerns that I've heard about have felt vague, irrelevant, or minor, to be honest. Ed, I appreciate you with your honesty and your humility tonight. I kind of felt like, I didn't know what you were going to say, but I felt like it was important for the public to be aware of where I'm at in this process. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, 4.02, Acting Superintendent's Report. Mr. Woodman?
My report's going to be talking about the administration building. It's going to be going under extensive renovations. So the CASD administration building will undergo extensive renovations starting in May. As a result, all admin building staff will relocate to one of our 4 locations. The Koch building, which is on South Main Street, it's one of our warehouses, will receive deliveries as well as house Xerox printing services and the district mailroom. The Reserve Armory building behind the YMCA will house business, finance, and human resources staff, as well as the chief administration team. Moving to caches, they will house our attendance and registration. Generally, when the public comes to the admin building, that will be, the folks will be at caches to the right as you go in their main entrance. Also, alternative education and special education department staff will be housed there. Office space on Lortz Avenue will house the technology and curriculum and instruction departments. Buildings and grounds crews are already hard at work prepping the relocation sites and are coordinating with the technology department to ensure staff have access to computers and phone lines. Admin building staff are in the process of packing up their offices and are preparing items for storage. The relocations are scheduled to begin on March 6th, with all departments leaving the building by April 7th. Starting on April 11th, all regular board meetings and committee of the whole meetings will be held in the Caches Auditorium. The renovation project is scheduled to run through October 1st, and the scope of the project is basically heating, ventilation, air conditioning, windows, and lighting for the admin building. The same thing that was done at 4 of our elementary buildings last summer, and also at Stevens Elementary this summer. Thank you.
So just to catch the date, we're here through March. And then in April, we start at Caches Auditorium. And that will be part of the advertisement, of course. All right, thank you. 4.03, Student Government Report. Who's up there first? Let's start with CMS. There it is, one in the middle.
Hello. My name is Trinity Funk, and I'm the president of the CMS Student School Board. So since January, we've had a couple PTSA fundraisers. Next slide, please. We had our PTSA cash drawing on January 28th. It was used to help fund CMS events, and the PTSA would like to thank everyone who helped with this event. Our student school board actually helped set up this event with tables, chairs, all that. So we spent a good morning on a Saturday setting all that up. Next slide, please. We also had a Lido Pizza fundraiser on February 15th and the 22nd. Next slide, please. And we will be having another one at Fuddruckers on March 22nd. Coming up, next slide, please. Coming up, we are having graduation. Next slide, please. The CMS graduation will be held on Thursday, June 1st at 6:30 p.m. in Trojan Stadium, and planning is well underway. There are exactly 200 students in the class of 2023 that will be receiving diplomas. When planning graduation, we must plan for 2 ceremonies if the weather does not cooperate, and the ceremony must be moved indoors. All board members and district administration will be invited to attend and witness this wonderful event for these young adults. Any questions? Thank
Nope,
you.
Great, thank you. All right, and Cassius.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Tariah Warren. Sorry, I haven't been at the last couple of meetings because I was the JV manager for the boys basketball team, so I've been on the road with them, watching them play for my senior year. And I'm here on break for work, so I'm going to try to make this as fast as I can. So next slide, please. Okay, so our main topics today are going to be winter sports, mini-thon, and other club updates, and then the spring musicals. So the winter sports season is coming to a close. The key highlights include the boys basketball team, which made it to the second round of district playoffs, lost to Reading by 7, if I remember. I was there at the game, and it was a really good game. They are undefeated, so for us to keep it really close was very amazing to watch. Right now, as we speak, they're playing Wilson. Not Wilson, I think Wilson in York. They're playing York. They're playing York. That's where they are. I'm at work, so I can't go to that, but it's okay. Next, we have wrestling. The team plays top 8 in the PIAA championships. Luke Menser, Aiden Height, Zach Evans, Avery Coons qualified for the individual state championships. Boys and girls swimming and diving, excellent results at the Mid-Pan championships. And then indoor track, we have JJ Kelly, the state champion in triple jump, 4th place in high jump. Darian, I can't say his last name, so I'm not gonna butcher it. So, Bob Garner, okay, thank you. State champion in the 600-meter hurdles. Natalia Holmes, 11th in the 60-meter dash, and then Peter Mentz in the 14th in the shot put. Next slide, please. The Cassius City government will be taking a field trip to Washington, D.C. on March 29th, 2023. The agenda for the trip will be a guided tour of the U.S. Capitol building and the Library of Congress through Rep. John Joyce office, yes. I'll be on that trip. The gifted program. So the Cassius and CMS Mini-Thon took place this past Saturday, February 25th, in the Cassius Auxiliary Gym from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And in total, they raised $21,797.12 was raised to combat pediatric cancer. Community service. In March, the Cassius Interact Club is participating in the Rotarians Club Dictionary Project. Along with several Rotarians, students will be distributing a dictionary to each third grader in the CASD. Next slide, please. FFA. Cassius FFA attended the ACES conference. The Agricultural Corporation establishes success this weekend with 11 of its members. During this conference, students attended leadership sessions, networked with other FFA students from across the state, and are excited to bring back their new skills to our chapter. It was a perfect end to the National FFA Week, where they held dress-up days, wrote thank you letters to the PA agribusinesses, and ended with the Ag Olympics contest in their agriculture courses. And then the National Honor Society is hosting their yearly induction on Monday, May 15th in the Cassius Auditorium. The 10th and 11th graders who qualify and accept the invitation will be inducted at this event. There will be light refreshments after the ceremony, and Judge Van Horn will be the keynote speaker. The school board is welcome to join, so please email Ms. Kristen Chapman at csdonline.org if you have any questions, and then call for volunteers. If any school board members are involved in organizations in the community, please contact Ms. Chapman or Ms. Pipers so they can share their opportunities with NHS kids, because they need hours badly. A lot of us do not have hours. I have mine. I'm guilty. And then lastly, we have our drama club and Cassius band. We have a spring musical coming up, Godspell. I can't really read those dates. I think it says Friday, April 15th? 14th? And Saturday the 15th, 7:30 on Friday and 2:30 and 7:30 on Saturday. Tickets are $8 for adults, $5 for students. And then the Cassius band is having a spaghetti, it's called spaghetti something. Spaghetti, yes. Thank you. Performances will be 4:30 for the 9th and 10th grade jazz band. 5:15 will be the still band. 6 will be the indoor guard and the aux gym. 6:30 will be the 11th and 12th grade jazz band. And then the spaghetti will be in the cafeteria, $10. 4:30 to 7:30 on March 4th. And then tickets will be sold at the door, and then takeout meals will be available. Any questions? Okay. Thank you, and I'll be heading back to work.
Great. Thank you.
I'll be at TJ Maxx if you want to see me.
All right, and NGR2C, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cadet Holloman, and tonight we're going to be speaking to you about the past month and the upcoming months in the NJROTC.
Cadet Holman, I don't think your microphone's on yet.
Very good.
So this past month, our NJROTC program at Cassius has been very busy with competitions in and out of school events and preparing for months to come. Next slide, please. On Saturday, January 28th, our drill team traveled to Colts Neck, New Jersey, and competed in the Area 4 academic, PT, and drill championships. We placed 4th overall out of 15 schools and took home the first place trophy in unarmed regulation drill. Next slide, please. Similarly, our academic team traveled up to New York on the weekend of February 4th to compete in an Area 4 brain brawl competition at Notre Dame High School. The competition was a buzzer-style trivia, and our team won 3rd place overall. Next slide, please. We recently held awards and promotion ceremony to recognize our cadets who have excelled in the 2nd and 3rd market period so far. We have promoted 14 upperclassmen cadets and 25 first-year cadets. We are also very pleased to announce that during the 2nd market period, 49 of our cadets were recognized for passing all their classes with A's or B's, which makes up 51% of our overall company. Next slide, please. Our Cassius faculty recently held a school orientation for the 8th graders at both Cams North and Cams South. This took place at the high school for 6 days from February 7th through the 9th and February 13th through the 15th. Our cadets prepared digitally to make sure the upcoming class of 2027 felt fully welcomed. Next slide, please. Our drill team cadets took the ball on this event, and we introduced the life of a cadet to all 8th graders who passed through. Our cadets taught them all the opportunities of our program offers and introduced physical fitness and gave all the students a building tour of the school. Each day during the lunch, we gave armed exhibition for entertainment. Next slide, please. This past weekend, our drill team traveled overnight to compete in a regional drill competition in Sterling, New Jersey on Saturday. This is unlike our previous competitions, and along with academics, PT, and varsity drill, our drill team brought a few of our first-year cadets who have gone above and beyond and competed in squad drill, junior varsity, color guard, and inspection team. Additionally, tomorrow morning, our entire company will be holding our annual area managers inspection and pass and review. This will be a day for our cadets to recognize for their achievements throughout the year. A march and military-style parade in the Cassius Fieldhouse. For those who would like to attend that, we ask that you please be seated in the Fieldhouse no later than 9:45 a.m. And it will be something to watch. It will be entertaining. Next slide, please. We also have a very busy month planned for March. With events such as Chambersburg Marksmanship Competition this Saturday, hosted by our marksmanship team at local AMVETS Pavilion. Next Monday, the 6th, we will have select groups of cadets taking the National Academics Exam. Also, on the Wednesday, the 8th, we will be taking a group of upperclassmen cadets to visit the United States Naval Academy at Indianapolis, Maryland. Additionally, on the 11th, our rifle team will be competing with schools across the Northeast U.S. in the Area 4 Marksman Championship. Our varsity and junior varsity drill teams will once again be traveling to New Jersey to compete in Rancocas academic, PT, and drill competitions on March 18th. Finally, to finish out our month, we will be taking qualifying cadets to Washington, D.C. on an academic trip on March 25th. We will be visiting the Air and Space Museum and given a small tour of our nation's capital. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
How many enlistments did you get from the orientation with the 8th graders?
We're not totally sure about that, but many of them had questions and seemed very intrigued.
Get them to sign a contract.
Where's the ROTC information night going to be held?
I'm sorry.
Where's the
Academy night,
yeah?
that'll be in the choral room at Cassius.
Okay.
From 6 o'clock to 8 p.m.
Is there any other questions? Thank you for your time and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
4.04 Foundation Report. I do have a note that Ms. Lynch is out of town, but there are 3 spots left for the golf tournament, which I think is in May. Okay. 5.01, members of the audience invited to comment on agenda items. I'm going to scroll here again through the papers. I didn't see that there were any that had indicated an intent to speak on agenda items. Okay.
I would like to speak for just to kind of piggyback off of my colleague. He's not the only one who felt the way he felt on some of the stuff, and I just would like to mention too that I think with all of the growth and the things that we've got going on here in Chambersburg, I think we need to be very mindful of that, just the housing, the people, the diversity that's going to be coming to this area. I think we need that as a school district. I think we need to be very, very mindful of that and to move mindfully with the superintendent and whatever other things that we have to do to prepare for that. And once again, I just wanted to piggyback off of what my colleague said. He was not the only one who felt the way that he did. And Yeah, I just wanted to put that on record.
Okay. Thank you. All right, and consent agenda, are there any items that need to be pulled from consent agenda for separate discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Thank you, and a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, for the items on the consent agenda, all those in favor of passing all the items that are listed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Consent agenda items are passed. 7.01 is for the revision of policy 011, principles for governance and leadership. We have a motion to approve policy 011.
Move to approve.
Thank you, and a second? Second. Okay, thank you. Now, this is one of the policies that Policy Committee has gone through, and you recall in early January, we had received some updates from PSBA. Since our last revision, we went through those and had these discussed or reviewed at the at the COW 2 weeks ago. But we do want to do this annually, where each board will have as a separate voting item. We had started this a couple years ago, and so if there's any discussion on policy 011. Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Diller,
Yes.
Ms. Gogler,
Yes.
Mr. Leonards,
Yes.
Mr. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. Norcross,
Yes.
Mr. Raber,
Yes.
Dr. Schur,
Yes.
Ms. Smith, and Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. And 8.01, elementary tutoring. We have a motion to approve the use of budget reserve to extend elementary tutoring program through April 20.
Move to approve.
Thank you. And a second?
Second it.
All right. Mr. Woodman, would you like to?
The approximate cost is going to be about $96,000. And we chose April 20th because that's about a week before our students start and our teachers are preparing for PSSA test. So it's about a week before the kids start testing.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Woodman?
This was something that used to be paid out of ESSERS, wasn't it?
Yes, for this year and next year, we allotted $50,000 for each division, elementary, middle, and high school. This year, and for next year, we hit at the last, in January CI&T, I talked about we were going to take $25,000 from the middle schools because they weren't expending their money. They have more tutoring that happens during the day, and to date they only spent $3,761, but the elementary were up to $89,985, and the high school was using their money for Back on Track, which they're pretty much right on target to their $50,000 that was allotted. Now we also allotted it for next year 50, 50, and 50.
Okay, so this year it's coming out of the general fund, basically.
Well, we used the first $75,000 for elementary out of the ESSERS, and over that, which were the approximate is $96,000, will come out of the general fund.
Okay, and then it's going to be in it's going to be in next year's budget.
50,000 out of ESSERS for next year for the elementary division.
I think you might be going, Mr. Mr. Leonards, is.
We both got gray hair, but you know.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah. I think maybe where you're going was we kind of blew through the money this year. Do we see that there's going to be the same situation next year? So, and if so, would we just be better to budget for it now?
Yeah, I think it will be close at the. We're going to actually take a look at this in CI&T to see where it was used and how it was used, and whether or not we need to put any parameters on it. We have some buildings we have 4 buildings that are over $10,000, and we have some buildings that are considerably less, and actually one elementary that has not used any of that yet.
Yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of this was, to get kids up to speed because of COVID, because they weren't in the classroom, correct? Okay, so I was just wondering how long, if this is gonna be a permanent, another permanent line in the budget, or is it something that, once they're caught up, it's gonna disappear?
I would love to say that the kids will get caught up, but as we're looking at kids coming to our schools with more gaps each year when they come into kindergarten, it may be something that we have to continue to look at to give extra support to our kids after school.
Mr. Whitman, may I add something? For the high school right now, we have back on track that's tied to attendance. What we're looking at to see how much we can move that down to the middle schools as well, due to attendance issues. So we're also at the next meeting at the Franklin County attendance. We have some magistrates and a judge there, so we're asking them to possibly mandate that for our students. That way it's an intermediary between court and trying to get themselves back on track with attendance, and also it's a tutoring program. So that may be coming next year for the following year in a budget request, because we'd like to keep that moving for sure.
Okay, I kind of took us off the specific item because this is for this year, but I think we understand its implications for future years. This would be establishing a precedent, but I think, to your point, you would love to say we're at a position where we don't need tutoring anymore, but don't know that we'll see that in the foreseeable future, unfortunately. Any other discussion on the motion?
Just a couple points, and I'm 100% in favor of this evening, just because this was a program that we started this year, and I wasn't a fan of, and I'm not a fan of ending it when we're this close to the end. However, as we have started the discussion this evening on this topic, I want to broaden it out on any topic, and you name it. For years and years, I sat back there in the corner and I gave a speech, epistle lesson, I don't know what you want to call it, on the Essers train. And I kept saying, the caboose is coming. What are we going to do when the Essers funds are not here, i.e. the caboose has gone by and now we're by ourselves? Mr. Rotz over at the Career Tech Center does a very good fiscal job. He called it a fiscal cliff. It's probably a little more user-friendly than a caboose theory. But in the general sense, I don't envy any administrator, educator, school board member, or school board group that has to start making these votes. But the fact of the matter is, we did a lot of things with Essers money. And when the Essers money goes away, or has gone away, there are some tough decisions to make. And it's not, we don't have that, millions and millions of dollars coming in that we did before. So it's some tough decisions, and we're gonna have to prioritize. And that prioritizing might be keeping something that we added with Essers money, but then we're gonna have to give something up that we had. And that's tough. That's tough for anybody, anywhere, in any situation, but it's a reality, using Mr. Rotz's term, as a fiscal cliff, because it's here and it's in front of us. So we have to be very cognizant and careful with that. And there's going to be some tough decisions. So it's great that we're starting a discussion on what we're going to do next year. But keep in mind, anything that was funded with Essers, as it comes off that Essers, you're going to have to you're gonna have to backfill that with something. Some people call it a bill payer. What's gonna be the bill payer? I was not on the board at the time. Most of the administrators up here were probably all in education, maybe in a different capacity. But my good friend, Mr. Carl Barton, used to mention this often because he was on the board at the time. And I don't know exactly the year, but Dad was a history teacher, so I'm going to go back in the history lesson here. Early 2000s, there was a lot of federal grants that started coming out, education grants. 2002, 3, 4, 5, in that time frame. And what happened, school districts were getting these grants. But what was happening at the same time, the amount of funds, normal funds that were coming to the school district were being reduced. So it looked to the school districts like you were getting more money, or maybe the same money. But what happened, the grants dried up, and then you had this lower funding level, and that's when many school districts, including this very school district, had to make some very tough decisions. Fortunately, thank goodness I wasn't on the board, didn't have to make it, of furloughs. And Chambersburg School District was not the only one. I think here at Chambersburg, they were able to do it more through attrition. But when you talk to school districts and colleagues across the state who are on school districts, there was a lot of school districts that had to end up, whether through attrition or straight out furlough. Once those grant dollars dried up, the funding was down, and the only way they could do it was cutting staff. So hopefully that doesn't ever come, but we can't maintain all these programs that we initiated and paid for with ESSERs. Some of the stuff was one time, bricks and mortar. They were one-time expenditures, that's great. But anything that was a reoccurring expense needs to be looked at closely.
Dr. Dillon?
Just wanted to add that I'm very happy that we're continuing this program for the kids for after school. It's approximately 450 some kids that we're extending the instruction after school, and I think that's really important. And it has been coming from ESSERS, but the additional money that needs to go into this program, we were supposed to hire 2 reading specialists this year, and we just recently, one of them started, and the other reading specialist, which we had budgeted for, has not been hired. So those monies were sitting there, and sometimes you have to make transfers and so forth to make things work for kids so they can get the education that they need, that extra boost. And as we go forward, like you're saying, Mr. Norcross, we have to continue to look at what we're spending, how we're spending it. And I know we do that, but yet we've got to evaluate the programs and make sure that we're getting the best bang for the amount of money that we have, because we do not have unlimited resources, and our resources, money-wise, it's very tight. So we've got to figure out what's going to be best for the students. So I appreciate that we can move on with having these kids have this additional instruction.
Any other comments? Thank you. Okay. I think we can do let's do a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Gogler?
Yes.
Mr. Leonards?
Yes.
Mr. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Norcross?
Yes.
Mr. Raber?
Yes.
Dr. Schur?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Diller?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Okay. 9.01, may I have a motion to approve the personnel actions? Anyone?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions about the personnel actions? Might just be the time of year, but it's nice to see the list being so short, 1 page. So it's good. Nice to see some more ads, though, but it is what it is. All right, hearing none, no comments or questions. Let's just do a verbal vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay. Personnel actions passed. 9.02, may I have a motion to approve the waiting for this to load, the employee CAEA retirement incentive. I'd like to read it on here, but it
Move
wasn't
to
loading in
approve.
time.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. All right, questions on this?
Was this on, this was on Cal or not? Is this new? This was on Cal last week?
It was discussed at Cal. We didn't have the, some of the specifics, but
Okay.
conceptually it was discussed.
Would it be wise to just go through the specifics for the public, or maybe not?
I think so.
Well, that's why it's a separate agenda item, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who's gonna
Ms.
present it.
Clever,
Do you want to take a look?
gonna tee it up for us?
I sure will. Good evening. So attached, you will see the MOU that has been drafted for this incentive. Basically, how it will work is that any CAEA bargaining unit member that would turn in an early submission, if you would, of their retirement by a certain date. That date that has been selected is March 15th. And as long as they stay through the end of the 22-23 school year, and the individual must have 5 years of completed service with CASD minimally, they will receive an incentive payout of $1,500. The money would be deposited as a non-cash payment into a 403B account or a tax shelter annuity. We do have a provision in there that addresses if the individual does not have an account, they need to get one opened, and then there's a deadline for that opening of that account. We are looking and recommending this in order to get a jump start on our recruitment efforts. This allows earlier planning for recruitment purposes, and we are very excited that on March 22nd, we will be attending the Pittsburgh Education Recruitment Consortium Job Fair. And this is the nation's largest job fair in the field of education. And by having this incentive and having this deadline as March 15th, we will be armed and ready to go for the job fair that's then the following week on March 22nd.
So I think we talked at Cal that this is a one way, instead of waiting to the last, trying to get people, this is one way to try to get ahead so that we know that there's always tight with teachers coming out of colleges, smaller numbers. This will allow us, for those that know at this point that they're going to retire and want to take that action, they can notify us and get a little extra pocket, 403 contribution for it. And then, that allows us then, as Mrs. Clever said, the ability to start planning for positions that we know that will be open. So, like the idea, and I think we've tried this in the past, but it was a while ago. So obviously market conditions are different, so we can't even go back and ask was that successful or not. But I still say applaud giving this a try, and hopefully it will be beneficial. Any other questions, comments?
Any idea how many that might apply for this?
No, I actually don't really have any idea of who's going to take advantage of it.
On average, how many retirements do we have a year? Ballpark, plus or minus 10.
Well, with COVID, it's kind of really thrown the curve off, so to speak. So I really don't know, and with me still being fairly new to Chambersburg, I'm not really sure. I know over the course of the current year that we're in, 22-23, we have had quite a few during the school year that have left mid-year during 22-23.
Any other questions? Okay. Given we talked about this at Cal and had it, you know, the specifics laid out here for us, well, let's still do a roll call vote anyhow.
Okay. Mr. Leonards?
Yes.
Mr. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Norcross?
Yes.
Mr. Raber?
Yes.
Dr. Schur?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Diller?
Yes.
Ms. Gogler?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
All right, so let's, committee reports 10.01, second meeting of the month. We'll start on our left side. So, Mr. Raber, any updates for your, okay, Dr. Diller?
Just this week, we had a wonderful presentation by 3 math teachers from the high school. And I don't have my notes in front of me, and I can't remember the name of the programming, so. Desmos. Well, anyway, they had done a presentation on some new online program that they would like to use for the math. They did some demonstrations, and I guess as a board member, I was just excited to see the enthusiasm that these 3 math teachers from the high school came in with and their demonstration. And if you could name them, I really appreciate them coming over and doing that. They are going to come before the board, and you'll see the same enthusiasm. But those 3 names, please.
Melinda Dewald, Marcus Elbell, and Jennifer Varner.
Thank you.
It made us board members want to sign up for high school math again.
Yeah, that takes a lot to want to go take a math course, but I could
looked fun
see
to me.
And
it
I
would
want
be
to say,
fun.
you know, Cody Marker was also, he's the principal in charge
Principal
of
that
math
came
over
in,
there,
yeah.
and he was also part of the presentation and development of that.
It's amazing what can be done to teach math now versus in my day.
I don't know, that front row are rolling their eyes.
Yeah, I'm not sure about wanting to take it again. I kind of tapped out at Trig and
I might
Calc,
finally
and I never
understand
got-
it with the
yeah.
way it's being presented
Maybe
now.
I would get it
might
this
know
time
how to
around.
apply it, because I never really knew how to apply some of these
Well,
things.
yeah, Mr. Whitman's jabbing is like way to sell it, but yeah, we all I acknowledge I reached my limit, but even twice, didn't get into college either. I passed, but it just wasn't my thing. But for others, there are, you know, that they way exceed that, you know, actuarians and all of that's great, you know, cryptography, very important. So everybody has their own skills and strengths. Calc is just not mine.
My favorite math story is in college, as engineers, we go through this terrible math, differential equations, and it's a tough one. It's how they weed us out. And our junior year, I'm sitting in a concrete foundations class, and Dr. Krauthammer goes through this thing, and he's doing development length on rebar. I'm going to date myself here with a chalkboard. And he gets there, and he comes up at the end of it, he turns around and he says, how many of you can solve a 4th order differential equation? And we looked like the front row when you were talking about math. We looked at each other and thought like, oh no, we are done here. And he said, good. He says, hopefully another 2 years you're going to be engineers. Turn to table B in your textbook and it's right there. So we didn't have to solve the equation. We had to understand the theory, but we could find the answer in the table. That's what I like about it.
All right, Mr. Walker.
Nothing.
All right, Ms. Gogler.
Not a committee report, but I just wanted to comment about the kindness tunnels that have been going on the last couple weeks. I've been to 5 of them, and the enthusiasm of the staff and the community in welcoming students into their day at school was just really amazing. And I just wanted to comment that it was really enjoyable to go to the 5 schools that I went to.
Awesome. The pictures what we saw looked like it was a great time. So. All right, Mr. Norcross.
Career Tech, I am blessed to get to go to an early graduation, something I've always wanted to go. As chairman of Career Tech, I get the pleasure of handing out diplomas or certificates at the graduation ceremony for the practical nursing program, which is Thursday evening. And I've always heard great things about that ceremony. It's held at St. Paul United Methodist Church, a place that's near and dear to me because it's home for me for 53 years. But, so I'm really excited that I actually get to go and hand those students their certificates and diplomas from practical nursing. So if anyone's interested, I hear it's a great service, do a candlelight and part of it. 7 o'clock Thursday night, St. Paul United Methodist Church. And as far as that program, the numbers are back. That program suffered a little bit through COVID, and enrollment was down, but that program is back to full capacity again, which is great. And I think every student passed their boards, and I think they all have jobs already too.
Awesome. Okay, for me, just we have the policy committee on Thursday morning. Franklin Learning Center, we didn't have a meeting since our last meeting here. There is one, I believe it's next Thursday, the 9th, and I'm not going to be available if anybody's able to cover for me for that. We do have, I think, 3 others from Chambersburg that, we have a total of 4 that go there, so if we can't get coverage, then it should still be okay. And I also missed the last LIU, and we'll miss the next one. But those minutes from that meeting are attached. Mr. Leonard?
Yeah, the next Finance Committee meeting will be the beginning of April, date to be determined, probably the 5th or 6th.
Mr. Leonards, would it be possible, I don't know what all that agenda looks like, but a couple months ago at Finance, we had a discussion on the EIT and the equation and the options. Is that something we could do, if maybe not this time, this upcoming meeting at Finance soon? In a future one, get a presentation on the EIT and what our options are there?
Yeah, we can do it. Well, like Tammy, I guess we can do it, can't we? Maybe not for this coming
Right,
Finance Committee meeting, but
It was discussed several months ago, and I think there was some interest then, but
yeah,
I'm not sure if we ever followed up on it.
yeah. We'll see. We're still developing the agenda, so
Okay.
we'll see how much time we have. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Smith? Okay, Mr. McKee?
I'll echo what Mrs. Diller said about the CIT meeting, the math, but it gives me no desire to go back to it. I mean, brings back nightmares. But they did a fabulous job, and you can tell the enthusiasm I have, and that'll pass over to their students very readily, because when teachers are excited about what they do, it excites students, you know, but I commend them on a great job.
Okay, great, thank you, everyone. 11.01, members of the audience are invited to comment on non-agenda items. And I see we have one, Curtis Shope. Going to pass? Okay. I didn't see anybody else that had indicated desire to speak. Is there any? Okay, please go ahead. State your name and you know the routine. The green light on. There you go.
Green light.
You don't need
My
to
name
do
is
your
Patty
address.
Dalloway.
You don't need to do your address, just name.
Okay, yeah, my name is Patty Dalloway. I'm a taxpayer in Chambersburg. Just, I didn't think I wanted to talk tonight, but when I heard Mr. Norcross's sort of explanation and then listened to Ben and Lance talk about the superintendent search, one of the things that when Mr. Norcross identified that the reason why the community wasn't able to know the names of the people who applied was because people asked for the confidentiality because maybe their districts didn't know they were applying for a job. However, I'm pretty sure that when we had a recent resignation of an administrator here just recently, that he was given a hard time because he didn't let you know that he was applying for other jobs. So it seems a little hypocritical that you would give him a hard time for not letting you know he was applying for other jobs and then protect other people. The other thing that I'm concerned about is that I think that I know a lot of teachers in the district. I don't know a lot of the students anymore, but I do know a lot of the teachers, and morale is bad. And I think that, that hiring a superintendent sooner rather than later is a good idea. Maybe you can think about having shorter contracts or something like that. But if there's a good candidate and you just want to find somebody better, I don't know that you're going to, because I kind of agree with Ben. I don't know that we have a great reputation that we're going to be bringing in when people start researching our district and the micromanaging that the school board has been doing, that we're going to get a lot of better candidates. So kind of like Mr. Walker to say more about what he was thinking too, to support what Mr. Raver was saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Haydock. Good evening.
Good evening, one and all. I wasn't planning on saying anything tonight. Mike Haydock, taxpayer, the district. I don't know a lot of teachers in the district. And I don't know a lot of the students, but I see them walk by my home day in, day out when they're on their way to school or going home. And I see a whole lot of kids that don't look like I did when I was a kid. The clothes they wear, the color of their hair, the jewelry they have adorning their bodies. But you know what? I did stuff when I was a kid that my parents and other adults thought was totally nuts. But what saddens me is I do know one teacher who I happened to talk to recently, and I asked that teacher, how's things in the school where you work? And the one thing she told me, she said many things, but what she said that really bothered me was, there are kids that go to school and all day long they don't go to the bathroom because they're afraid to. They're afraid to go into the bathroom because of what might happen, with things being said and behavior going on. No specifics, but I thought to myself, how can a kid learn in that environment when you're afraid to go to the bathroom all day long? I don't know how accurate that description is, but if it's accurate just a little bit, it sounds very serious. And I don't know if anybody ever brought to this board the attention of that kind of situation, but I'm bringing it up now, and maybe there's nothing to it, but I think it deserves a look into, and I would hope that this board would agree with that.
Mike, was that elementary or middle or high school?
Thank you. I noticed Mr. Whitman writing it down. Yep.
Yeah, Herb Dalloway, 962 Brandon Drive. Again, I wasn't going to speak this evening, but you know, when you're looking for a superintendent, I've spent many years, I've conducted or sat in on many, many interviews. I looked at a lot of resumes in my time. And when you do interviews, you find a great resume, you find people who have great stories, but for some reason, it never computes when it comes to putting your feet on the ground. And we have encountered that in many positions, not only in the school district, but also with the borough of Chambersburg. So I guess my thing here is there's talk about low morale, lots of issues. When you have a known local quantity that knows what the problems are, has a good resume, you know who they are, sometimes hiring local gets you a lot further ahead than what you think picking out somebody who has a great resume, who can sell themselves, but really when it comes again to doing the job, it just doesn't work. Well, this way you know what you have, you know what you have to work on, their strengths and weaknesses, And so sometimes you're better just going with that and moving forward. And when you have the trust and, again, the confidence of the local teachers, then the morale immediately responds and you have that trust in moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you, everyone. So with that, we will adjourn the regular board meeting and move to the committee of the whole. Committee of whole agenda item 1.01, Dr. Long for the Grand Point Church rooms rental.
Yes, this is a request from the high school. They have testing in the month of May. AP and IB, their regulations for this requires no bells. They used to come to the admin building, and since the admin building is going to be under construction, they needed to find another place to go. We recommended Grand Point Church, and that would be $45 a day for the rooms for 3 different testing sessions, and that will be out of the Cassius budget.
Okay, hearing no questions, we'll move to the next one. 1.02, photography vendor contract.
This is the contract for Pictures Plus. We have been using them for years. We extended a year, and so that's going to be running out. So we wanted to get ahead of the game and start the next 5-year contract with them. We have made some changes within it to update it to 2023, so to speak, with the technologies and things like that, but also changing some of the stipends that they will be giving the middle schools and things like that to correspond with the increased cost and things like that as well for the yearbooks.
Good. And
Go ahead.
Good.
I have a question about this. I remember last year this came before the board. We had done an RFP, right? The district had, and there was a photography vendor, not local, like Pictures Plus. But what I remember is that the pricing was comparable, and it included a package that I think was a little bit better. So I'd just like to have a better understanding of, are we just renewing this because, you know, Pictures Plus is local, right? And we value that to some extent, for sure. Is that, I mean, it's a 5-year contract, so I just remember that RFP process was just kind of rejected last year, and yet we were getting a better product. So I'm wondering, like, as Picture Plus, how has their package improved since we last looked at this? Are they offering us something that is more comparable to what we got last time or not? And I don't know. I'm just trying to ask some good questions that I think about as a parent.
I do know that with discussions with Mr. Kuhn, we have looked at how much each package cost and trying to get some lower cost packages out to the parents with, you know, different things that they can put into it. So I do know that he is lowering those, but also he has a full range now, unlike before, and that's what he's adjusted there big time with this. I also do know that, just so the public knows, that an RFP is not required for this because this is a service.
Right.
So the board can just move forward with a contract like this.
I think what I remember, the specific thing that I remember being much better with the group that we looked at last year is that they were offering a hardcover yearbook to elementary school. And as a parent, I have often thought it'd be really nice if this was hardcover. So maybe not everybody else sees value in that, and that's fine. So if the administration wants to move forward and you feel like this is a really good option for us, I'm okay with that. But.
Any other comments? Okay. 1 and 2 go to the consent agenda for the next meeting. 1.03, unique field trip request. Dr. Long.
This is another request for the second semester for the anatomy classes to go to the cadaver lab in Northern Virginia If they do not reach their 40, they will be extending the invitation to the high school once again.
Sounds good. Not a trip I want to go on.
If it's,
I will not be going either.
I would like to attend that.
They do virtual.
You don't get the smell virtually.
Oh.
it's just,
First time I ever passed out.
all right, so we'll put that on consent agenda, 1.04, and then
That
Mr.
is a
Woodman.
unique.
104, budget transfer for pupil services. Mr. Woodman.
This is to cover the cost for an alternative placement for one of our students.
Okay, consent agenda then, hearing no comments. 105, expulsion of a 11th grade student.
Yeah, we talked briefly.
talked briefly about this one. And then the board does have, under the executive content, some more specifics, but still not the specific identifiers. But we understand the circumstances. So that will go to consent agenda. And 106, Ms. Stauffer.
Yes, this is the agreement renewal for Frontline Education, which is our Forecast 5 system that we use to budget forecast and also generate analytical comparison reports. We did go back and ask for a 3-year agreement for them to provide that option to us, and it is at a discount, a 2% savings each year if we go with a 3-year agreement.
Great, I think, and we talked about that at,
Agenda review.
was that,
Yeah.
and it was one of the meetings that I was at, I couldn't remember which. So at agenda review, I just suggested this is a product that we find great value in, and was that an option to have a extended duration contract instead of doing an annual renewal? So Mrs. Stauffer checked into that, and that's what she outlined. Basically, saying it a little differently, there was no foreseeable reason why we would stop the service over the next couple of years anyhow. So let's try to get a little bit of a savings. Any questions on that? Okay. So then it takes us to 201, which is the adjournment of the COW. So we are going to go back into executive session to continue personnel related items. And that's it. Good night, everyone. Thank you.